The first country to provide Ukraine with Soviet-era tanks was the Czech Republic. It's also provided artillery and infantry fighting vehicles. Due to their historical ties to the Soviet Union, both countries field similar weapon systems, allowing the Ukrainians to use Czech armaments effectively and with little training. For more on this nation's aid to Ukraine, I'm joined by Jan Lipavsky, who is the Czech Republic's Minister of Foreign Affairs. Minister Lipavsky, thank you very much for joining us. At this point, do you believe your country is doing all it can to support Ukraine?
Hello. We are doing as much as we can, and we are doing it for Ukraine, we are doing it for the whole Europe, and we are doing it for the world order, since Putin is waging war against the whole world and international order.
I want to ask you about that because today word came from U.S. officials that the Soviet-era tanks that the Czech Republic and Poland have supplied to Ukraine, that a number of them have created problems. They haven't been in the condition that they should have been in. Is your country doing all it could be doing to make sure all this material is in good working order?
It depends on what is in stockpiles. So if there is a will, there is a way. We are also helping with repairing works. So I hope this will be solved soon.
So you're confirming there have been some issues with the tanks, is that right?
No. I'm just saying that, you know, we are using the old weapons, so there might be issues, but I don't want to be specific on any of that.
Well, more broadly speaking, Minister Lipavsky, is it your sense that that all of NATO is doing for Ukraine what it could be doing?
I would rather be speaking about specific states like United States or United Kingdom or Poland, which are major contribution on these activities on delivering weapons to Ukraine. There are other states like France who also are providing weapons. And the European Union agreed on multiple quite significant packages of money put it into procurement of weapons. So there always can be done more, but we also need to be thinking that this has to be done in a sustainable way. So it's not just outburst activities and then, you know, it will be decreasing. So we need to do it in a sustainable way.
I want to ask you about what we just heard in Willem Mark's report, and that is the comments much earlier today from the U.S. Defense Secretary Lloyd Austin, when he said he wants to make sure that the Russians would not be able to do the kinds of things that it has done in the invasion. In other words, the U.S. is saying they don't want Russia to be able to do another invasion. Is that realistic, do you think? Does the West have the ability to stop the Russians from doing that?
Yes, we have to stop Russia now. Putin has mind of imperialistic big Russia. Would not he be stopped now in Ukraine? He would continue with other countries, maybe with Baltics, maybe with Moldova. So we have to stop Russia with its aggression now. Therefore, it's necessary to put sanctions on Russia and help with Ukraine with humanitarian and military aid.
But do you think so you're saying it's realistic, given the level of assistance that the West, that NATO is giving Ukraine right now, that you believe it can hold off Russia? Do you believe Ukraine can prevail?
Definitely yes, and I believe that Ukraine will win this war.
What gives you that confidence?
I understand and I see the will of Ukraine for freedom, open society, for democracy, for values of freedom of speech. Zelensky was democratically elected, Putin not. That's the difference.
And I hear you saying that, and yet we see the Russians are firing missiles across the Ukrainian countryside. They are hitting the west of Ukraine now. What's to stop them from continuing to wage this kind of war?
The sanctions will stop flow of money and dual-use technologies, so Russia sooner or later won't be able to produce any of those modern rockets. And would the West provide Ukraine with the good anti-air systems, they would be also able to shoot these rockets down. So that's what we have to do.
Mr. Minister, you mentioned the sanctions. Of course, the Czech Republic is a member of the European Union, but the EU has failed so far to agree on stopping purchasing oil and gas from Russia. Can Russia be stopped as long as that kind of business, that kind of trade continues with Russia and the rest of Europe?
This is part of the problem, and I'm sure that the EU sooner or later will be able to solve this issue. We are now in the process of making the 6th package of sanctions, which will be announced pretty soon, but it's hard to predict. And yes, of course, Europe is partially dependent on Russian gas. So to cut it off from the supplies, we need to do some measures, we need to do some intermediate solutions, so it's not so easy. But we are working on it quite effectively. We are working on it.
Is Germany the main holdup?
We need to find different sources. We need to find the ways how to cut demand in some areas. So that's something which takes time. But there is a will to cut off this Russian gas.
All right, we are going to leave it there. The Foreign Minister, Jan Lipavsky, thank you very much.
Thank you. Goodbye.